We can't hear you at all. You're just coming out like a robot, to me anyway.
How is it now? Is it better?
Much better. Totally clear now.
Okay. Yeah, probably it's a problem with my microphone. If it happens again, it sometimes happens every 5 minutes, but also sometimes I'm lucky. So if it happens this next time, please tell me. And we are
Yeah, sorry, it's happening again.
We can't hear you.
How is it now, the sound?
Better.
It's better, but not so good as with the microphone, I guess, when it's working. How is it now?
Good.
Good. Good.
Good. I'm using a different port now. I don't know if this will solve the problem. I hope so. Anyway, this quote starts with the words, once there was a great madman. And I think great madman might be a mistranslation here. Actually, what is meant here is somebody who's suffering from, how is it called, megalomania or grandiosity, somebody who thinks, well, he's the greatest person in the universe. I think that's what meant here with a great madman. Once there was a great madman in the Sugamo hospital who called himself Ashiwara Shōgun. Actually, when I translated this, I wasn't aware that this person, well, really existed. Well, Sawaki Roshi says he did exist, but I thought that maybe Sawaki Roshi is making him only up. But when I looked on the internet, I'm going to share it with you. I saw that actually he has a Wikipedia page, and not only in Japanese, but also, how can I first have to go to the page itself. Not only in Japanese, but also in English, German, and Japanese. So that's the guy here. That's the English page. He lived from 1850 until 1937. If I remember right, Sawaki Roshi lived from 1880 to 1965. So he was 30 years Sawaki's senior. Obviously, he was from samurai birth, but at the time of his life, the samurai had already lost their status, so he had to do manual labor, and he suffered from this idea that he was a shogun, or later he called himself even the Emperor Ashiwara. Ashiwara was his family name, and it seems that at the time he was quite popular in Japan in the newspapers because he was so crazy, and the stuff that he said were so, I don't know, so funny that actually he was often featured in the newspaper, and there were even, how would you say, celebrities meeting with him. And well, you see, that's the picture, that's how he dressed up. If you're interested in the guy, you can have a look at his Wikipedia page later. Anyway, let's read what Sawaki Roshi says about him. There was a guy who called himself Ashiwara Shōgun. He hung a cardboard medal around his neck. Although on the picture, the dress he's wearing, it looks pretty real. So even that medal that he's wearing on his suit, it looks pretty real to me. But according to Sawaki Roshi, was only made out of cardboard. And he bestowed dignified words to those he met to take them on their way. Now that the war is over, we can see clearly that what the military did wasn't at all different. So that's what I, as always, call playing the game, being attached to your name and rank. And well, some people would argue society is not a game, life is not a game, things like war are not a game because people are actually suffering and dying. How can you call it a game? Of course, it's different from a chess game in that you actually do suffer. Although when you play American football, I could imagine that you also suffer. Also, pain is involved in games like that. But there's no second time, there's no rematch. And when the game is over, everything is over. So it's a special game in that way. But at the end of the day, it's a game. And I think it's important that we understand it's just a game. And again, when I say just, it's also important, it's the only game we have. It's not, there's nothing outside of the game. But still, it's a game. And in a way, we could say most of the time we play this game almost like this madman who's wearing a paper medal around his neck and bestowing dignified words on others while actually he's being fed in a mental institution, but he thinks he's the emperor and he's the boss of all these people. He's bossing them around. Maybe Xuan, you translate and then I can do maybe 1 or 2 more quotes.
刚刚老师读了一段，我简单的翻译一下，就是以前有一个这个书上写的是一个非常疯狂的人，然后刚刚老师解释说，可能这个疯狂的人是一个比喻，就是他应该是一个，他认为自己是世界上最牛的、最厉害的一个人，应该是这个意思啊，就是他的那个翻译可能有误，然后就是在这个医院里面，在这个医院里有一个非常疯狂的一个人，伟大的疯狂的一个人，然后他叫他自己那个中文那个字儿好像没有那个字儿啊，叫什么阿西巴拉将军，那个Shōgun是将军的意思啊，就是他把他自己叫做一个什么将军，然后他的脖子上面呢，带着一个硬纸板的勋章。刚刚老师给我们看了一下那个图，然后老师说看那个图里边，他那个勋章好像是真的，但是泽姆老师在这本书里面写的是，其实他这本书里面写的是一个硬纸板做的一个勋章，然后这个勋章呢是那些人在他们自己的那个方法上面给予他的一个荣誉，就是这个直译是这样的。然后好像就是说，就是应该是二战啊，这个人他应该是二战结束之后，二战的时候的一个将军嘛。然后他可能就是说他得到那个勋章，可能是二战他们这个游戏当中这些人。所以你看他写的是这些人他们的这个方法给他了赋予一个非常尊重的一个算是奖励啊。然后当这个战争结束的时候呢，我们可以看到，其实他这些就是从部队来的，就是从他军队给他的这个奖励呢，或者是给予的这个荣誉，其实好像也没有什么不一样的。刚刚老师就是说， 这个人好像当时在日本非常有名，就是因为他穿着打扮非常的夸张，然后也是总是说一些非常疯狂的一些有点不正常的一些话。然后他这个人就是他一直就把自己称为将军嘛，然后应该是二战的时候，老师说其实这就是我们之前说的，就是老师经常说的是那个游戏啊。我们说战争它其实是一个游戏，当他在战争里面获得了一个荣誉的时候，战争结束了，好像一切都结束了。那我们现在活的这个社会和生活，其实好像也跟战争是一样的，虽然我们没有那么残酷。它和你这个游戏和你下棋的游戏可能不一样，输和赢好像没有什么太大的损失，但是，或者说比如说你去那个美国那个足球哈、叫什么橄榄球吧，不是美国的足球，就是那个你去玩那个美式足球，应该是美式足球的时候，你的那个输赢可能和你下棋的那个输赢是不一样的，对吧？残酷程度可能也是不一样的。但是呢，在结束的时候，好像一切都结束了。其实我们应该看出来，游戏就是游戏，然后我们除了这个游戏之外什么也没有。所以其实就好像这个疯子一样哈。当这个游戏结束的时候，我们应该也结束，不应该一直在这个游戏当中。要看出来游戏，而且其实我们也只有这个游戏，就是你要好好的在这个游戏当中玩儿，因为我们除了这个游戏以外，别的都没有。但是它其实也只是一个游戏，就大概是这个意思啊。
Okay, shall we do one more quote? It would be the last quote on page 40. After winning the Russo-Japanese War, we thought we'd won colonies. But what really came of it? After losing the Second World War, we realized that we had only earned the hatred of the Russians. I think the Russo-Japanese War was in 1904, 1905, when Sawaki Roshi was 24, 25. I don't remember exactly if he also fought in that war. He fought in China, but there was also what in Japanese is called the Nishin War, a war between Japan and China a little before that. Anyway, Japan won that war against Russia, and they were very proud because it was probably the first time an Asian nation had won against the imperialistic European nations. It was big international news, and the Japanese won half of the Sakhalin Peninsula. They were very proud. And then later they started a war on Asian mainland in China, and they took part of Manchuria. And in 1941, the war with America started, and Japan lost that war. And what Sawaki means with we only earned the hatred of the Russians, I think what he means is, interestingly, the Russians and the Japanese had a peace treaty during the Second World War. And I think it was in 1941, only 2 or 3 weeks before Hitler started the war with Stalin. The Japanese foreign minister visited Berlin, and he asked Hitler, I'm thinking about signing this peace treaty in Moscow when I go back to Japan. What do you think about it? And Hitler didn't say anything at the time, or he didn't say, well, you should stop it. So the foreign Japanese minister signed this peace treaty, and 3 weeks later, Germany starts the war. But Japan kept to the peace treaty. So although Hitler secretly hoped that the Japanese would help him and also fight Russia, Japan never started a war with Russia. And later they started the war with America and Italy and Germany, and also entered the war with America. And as you all know, the Axis powers lost. But the Japanese, I think they were a little bit, how do you say, surprised or disappointed that Russia only, I don't know how many weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks before the war ended, Russia entered the war. The Japanese being surprised because they kept to the peace treaty all the time. Anyway, so what Sawaki Roshi here says is when we had won the war at the beginning of the 20th century, we were proud. We gained colonies. Now we're also one of the global players on the stage. Next, we will take China, and next, we will be big brother in whole of Asia. But then, 40 years later, Sawaki Roshi says the only thing we earned ourselves is the hatred of the Russians. So actually, still even now between Russia and Japan, there's this quarrel about some islands in the north that the Russians took after the war, but the Japanese say we want them back. Also, part of this game we play. Sometimes we win, and then again we lose. Okay, maybe so much for today. In the next couple of quotes, this topic continues, but I'm afraid tonight I won't have the time to talk about it. So after the translations, after the translation, if you have questions, things you would like to ask, please feel welcome to do so.
老师又读了一段，也是关于那个战争的，就是应该是日本和那会儿俄罗斯啊，日本和俄罗斯的战争，然后日本应该是赢了，那个时候他们特别的骄傲，然后我们认为好像我们赢了一些殖民地，但是在我们赢了之后，那是真正来临的是什么呢？就是他们这个战争结束，他们赢了之后来临的是二战，然后他们在二战中输的特别惨。然后我们意识到啊，其实原来我们赢得的也只是俄罗斯人民对我们的一些仇恨，因为那个泽姆老师他其实是参战了，他参加了，他应该是参加了那个世界战争，就是这个写这本书的这个人啊，泽木禅师，然后他当时就是他应该是特别有感触嘛，然后写的这句话，当时日本应该是特别骄傲，赢了那个日俄的战争之后。然后得了很多地，俄罗斯好像也割地了当时，然后当赢了之后呢，他就一下日本人就变得特别骄傲了嘛，就有了侵华的一个计划，像侵华又有了侵华战争，然后美国后来又挑起了二战嘛，就是所以他其实就是老师就是讲的，其实你看我们输和赢，在赢了之后，其实来的也不是另外一个赢，而是输，所以输和赢好像没有一个什么必然的一个联系。然后老师刚才解释了好多二战之前的事儿，就是说，那个在开战以前，应该是1941年吧，开战之前，然后日本人还去了柏林见了希特勒，还要当时可能还是要就是写什么条款吧，可是。当时应该是要签个什么条款，但是当时好像没有签。他回来3周之后呢，德国就开战了。然后开战以后，到后面就是日本的情况不太好之后，当时他们赢了俄罗斯嘛，俄罗斯好像也参战，就是日本人还很觉得非常意外，怎么俄国也参战了？就是老师刚才解释了好多关于二战的一些事情，历史我也不是非常懂啊。然后反正就是最后老师给了一个结论，就是说其实输和赢，你看之前赢了，其实什么也没有得到，反而后来又输了。所以就是其实输和赢也只是一个游戏最后的一个结果，它也没有什么必然的联系，只是输了，还有只是赢了而已。然后大家有问题可以问啊。
Thank you. So, if you have questions, things you would like to share, please feel welcome to do so. No questions today? Paulo, please.
Actually, it's more a comment than a question, if you allow me. Yeah, I think history is pretty much more complex than what even today we can understand. I've spent a good deal of time researching it, particularly this period, and a certain part of all events, and it's very different from what we read on the official narrative. So I think we need to catch the whole thing, pick up with the whole thing with a pinch of salt, to avoid us to find in our position that possibly we be in contradiction. However, what Sawaki says, it's important at the end of the day, regardless of the real history, which seems to be that, like the last one you quoted, that doesn't matter what, we shouldn't do war. We shouldn't go through that way. And I think that's one of the things that attracted me into Buddhism, because after reading so much history, I learned that I was in such a deluded world of ideas. And then I said, okay, right now, okay, shall I game the game? Again, what you mentioned is because it is a game, it's a billionaire's game, it's a big money. But the guys, the investments, sometimes like French and British war, was financed by the same family on the two sides. The financing the two sides. It is very dirty world. And so what the question you raised me the question, what's the point to play this game? Because, okay, yes, I want to be rightful, we want to be honest, transparent, to be justice, but we are not going to go anywhere on this, because we have to get into this game and play the game, and we don't have the guts to do what they can do with us. So what attracts me in Buddhism is exactly this, that the only way for us, to me, it seems, is not to get into the game, not going to religion either. Is just getting the Buddhism gives this line, seems to me, that if we share and make people start to think about themselves, we think about ourselves, and also be compassionate with this detachment from the materialistic world. And I think that's possibly the only way I can see to be out of all this problem. That's all I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anything else that you would like to ask or share? Joseph, please.
Well, I think Paolo kind of explained some of the things I was thinking about, and I think it's a question that we've probably covered in a previous week. But it's okay, so it's all a game, but we still end up playing the game anyway. So how can we play it knowing that it is just a game? Perhaps including in things which are within that game very important, like politics, for example. How do we engage in it, but still hold the idea that it's still a game at the same time? Perhaps something on my mind, like we have an election here in this country coming up in a few days, and obviously there's lots of other stuff in the news which we're all, I'm sure, following at the moment. So yeah, that's what's on my mind.
Yeah, that's exactly the question. How do we want to play this game? Being aware it's just a game, but it's the only game we have. And well, what I always say, I mean, once you realize this game is gonna end sooner or later, that should help you to understand it's not so much about the points you gain, it's about the joy you find in the game, participating in the game, even when you lose. And hopefully you will think not only about the joy you have in the game, but you will want to share that joy. So you want to enjoy the game with the others. So in German, we have the same word for game and play. And often we forget the play aspect and only focus on the game. I need to win the game. But it's supposed to be playful. And I think that's the key to this answer. How am I supposed to play the game? Focus more on the playing aspect than on the game aspect. But that, of course, is easier said than done.
Some people might feel angegriffen. What's the word? Angegriffen if you play playfully. That's my experience. My mother, my husband, if I'm kind of playfully,
Yes.
yeah, with their kind of being so strict, then they feel, how do you say the word, angegriffen or
attacked or
attacked, yeah, attacked, or verletzt, verletzt, what's the word?
injured. I think
Injured,
that's
injured, yeah, injured. They don't like it. It comes back to me.
Yeah, some people then think that you don't take the game serious enough. You don't take life serious enough if you play it playfully.
Yeah.
But I think you can be playful and very serious about the game at the same time.
Mm.
Of course, there's also this way of not taking life serious, but that's not what I mean with playful. You have to take it very serious because it's,
Yeah.
as I said, it's the only thing we have. We only have this one game. We have only this one game, so there's nothing that would be more serious, but it's not about the points, and everybody only thinks about the points. Not everybody, but most of the time, most of us think about the points we have gained at the end of the day, and not so much about if we really enjoyed the game. But yeah, I also get sometimes this reaction, even if I only use the metaphor of game. People have the idea that I don't take life seriously enough, but it's not a game. People are dying. Yes, of course they are dying. I see that. I see that. Anything else that you want to ask or share? If not, it's already 9:02 here in Japan. So if there are no more questions, I wish you a good week. And next Monday we get back to the Heart Sutra. So thank you for joining. See you again. Have a good day or good night.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good week.
Moho, willst du noch